And a very warm welcome back everybody to the second part of this Pokémon Crystal's moves tutorial. In the last one we did 3 fairly simple moves. We were able to utilise things that were already in the Crystal code in order to make those moves work. In this one we're going to go slightly more complex and we're going to start doing some original code. Now if you haven't already backed up your Pokémon Crystal disassembly from last time, I would do that now and then I would clone a fresh copy of Crystal, run a pre-make, and I'll meet you when you are ready to add 3 new moves. And now that we're all good to go, the first thing we'll need to do, of course, is open up our backporting moves session. For me, that's in my Squidgy folder, and then it's Crystal Backporting Moves files. That's opened up all of the files we were working on last time. We are going to need some extra files, but for now, we're just going to get the initial move in, and then we can start working on the move effect once the move is in the game. The first one we're going to go for is Aqua Ring. Now, if you're not familiar with Aqua Ring, it's quite similar to the Leftovers. If you have used Aqua Ring, it will restore a 16th of your HP at the end of your turn. So we'll need to get the move in first and foremost, so we'll go back to the bottom of this list. We'll look for Beat Up. Let me get my search window on this screen so you can see what I'm searching for. We will do Const and then Aqua Ring. That's all we need for the move Constant. That is what we'll be referring to for adding it to a learn set. We'll go down to move names, we'll go to Beat Up, we'll do Li and then Aqua Ring to get the name all in. For descriptions, we'll go down to Beat Up once more, we'll move FC description up, we'll do Aqua Ring description, and then we'll go to the bottom of the page with Control and Enter. We'll do Aqua Ring description : DB restores HP at, and then next, end of turn. We'll check that those are 17 characters or fewer. We can probably fit the word "the" in there as well then. Is that still under 17? It is. So restores HP at the end of the turn. And now we will add the attributes for the move. So once again, we're going to search for Beat Up. We'll make a new line. It's move, it's Aqua Ring and a comma. We're going to do effect Aqua Ring with a comma. It's got 0 power because it's a status move. It's the water type. It's 100% accurate. It's got 20 PP and there is 0 additional effect. We save that, we go to the animations page, and now we go all the way down to below Beat Up. We'll move this first dummy up, and I think I'm going to piggyback off the bubble move animation. I think that's probably going to be the one that's most like an Aqua Ring. If you've got a better idea, please do let me know in the comments. Now we're going to need the effect constant for Aqua Ring because we have added it in. So we go to the bottom of this list, below Defense Curl, we're going to go effect Aqua Ring and give that a save. Effect pointers all the way down once more, and then we'll do DW Aqua Ring, give that a save. And now what we have to do is we have to do the effect. So what I like to do here is I try and look for one that's a similar status move to what we're doing. We could probably actually do it, you know, with Mirror Move. So if we copy Mirror Move and go all the way down to the bottom, we will then go Aqua Ring and change Mirror Move here to Aqua Ring. So that means we will check the obedience, we'll show the used move text, we will then do the turn, i.e. the player has taken a turn this time, we'll do the effects for Aqua Ring, and then we will end the move because it's the end of the player's turn. So we've written Aqua Ring here, we're now going to create it as a battle command. So we'll go to battlecommands.asm as our next file, we'll go down to the bottom, and then underneath command curl, we will do command Aqua Ring, and this is going to be B0. And then we can move on to effect command pointers, and this is going to be referring to Aqua Ring, but as a battle command. So we'll go underneath curl, we'll do DW, and then we will do battle command Aqua Ring. Copy that onto the clipboard, and now we are back into the massive effect commands file. We'll go down to the bottom of this, we will type in battle command Aqua Ring and a colon, and now what we have to do is we have to think about the process of what happens for Aqua Ring to be a thing. Now, if we break it down into its core components, using the move Aqua Ring is actually very simple. There isn't much that the move itself does. all it will do is check to see if a Pokemon has already used Aqua Ring. If it has, it will fail, but if it hasn't, it will then set something that says that the user has used Aqua Ring, therefore we will do something with it later. It's a very, very small process for what the move does, and we've already got something fairly similar in with the game. If you think about Focus Energy, where the Pokemon gets pumped to increase its critical hit ratio, all that does is check to see if the user has used Focus Energy before, and if it hasn't, we will tell the game that this user has used Focus Energy. So we should now have a little look for Focus Energy. In the Pokémon Crystal disassembly, move effects either live in the big list on effect commands, or they've been split out into a separate file. If you're not sure, I would always recommend using Search Everything first, and just look for the move name, and there we go, we've got Engine Battle, Move Effects, Focus Energy. So we'll open that up and see what it is, and it's a very small move effect. For Focus Energy, we are loading the Battle Vase, i.e. something that's a variable within the battle, and it's going to be sub-status 4, because each Pokemon, when it's out on the field, has a bunch of sub-statuses. They can be things for, like, Focus Energy, it's for Curl, it's for Mean Luck, it's for Lock-On, it's for all those things where a Pokemon has a particular status that isn't like a status effect. It's just something saying we're going to be doing slightly different things here. So we know that we look for a substatus. They're going for substatus Focus Energy. We'll have to create our own substatus in a moment. JRNZ. So that means if it is not 0, we are already pumped, i.e. if the bit for Focus Energy is set to 1, this Pokemon has already used Focus Energy. If not, we are going to set that bit. So we're going to turn that from a 0 to a 1 to say this Pokemon has used Focus Energy. We will then animate the move. We will load the Getting Pumped text for Focus Energy into RAM, and we will go to the standard battle text box. That will then be the end of the turn. But if we are already pumped, we will animate the move and say it's failed, and then we will jump to but it failed. So what we can do here is we can copy everything, go back into effect commands, paste it in, and now we can start tinkering with it to make it what we want. So what we're going to want to do is create a new substatus for Aqua Ring. We're going to need some new text to say we're surrounded by a veil of water, and then we'll need to edit this to replace the Focus Energy bits with our new Aqua Ring bits. So we can now close Focus Energy, and the first thing we're going to do is create that substatus. Now, substatuses live in a file called Constants Battle Constants. So it's in Crystal Constants, we'll open up Battle Constants, and now we know that that one is called Focus Energy. So we'll copy that onto the clipboard and give it a search, and there we go, we've got substatus Focus Energy as a constant for substatus 4. Underneath that, you see we've got const_skip. That is a spare slot. So what we can do is we can get rid of the underscore and change the skip to substatus Aqua Ring. We'll copy that onto the clipboard, and now we will change both of these substatus Focus Energies to substatus Aqua Ring. We will then change already pumped just for our own coding purposes here, so that we can refer back to it later to already Aqua Ring. We will then change that down there as well. And now what we need to do is we need to change this Getting Pumped text into something that makes much more sense for Aqua Ring. So for that, we're going to need to create some battle text. That lives in a file called data, then text, then battle.asm. We'll open that up, so that's in data, text, battle. We will now have a little look for something that refers to the user. If we do the pointy brackets for user, we can see here, perfect. User is hurt by poison. We can borrow that. So if we now go to the bottom of this, we'll do Aqua Ring text and finish it off with a colon. We'll tab back in. It's going to be user on the first line because we don't know how long the nickname's going to be. Surrounded itself. And then to do a third line, we're going to start with cont. So we do text for the first line, line for the second line, conts for anything after that. A water veil. Make sure to spell veil correctly. And that is the Aqua Ring text all done. We'll copy that onto the clipboard. we'll go back to effect commands, and where it says getting pumped text, we will replace that with aqua ring text. Give it a save, and we have now got the move in place, but it's not going to be able to do anything yet. We now need to tell the battle engine what to do if a Pokemon has used Aqua Ring. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back to search everything, and now we're going to open engine battle core.asm. So we'll open that up, and here we have the entire battle engine in front of us. It's very big, it's very intimidating, but all we need to do at the moment is think about what Aqua Ring is going to do in between turns. And it's going to do something very similar to the leftovers. In fact, the only thing that's going to be different is the condition for when we recover the HP. So that means we can search for leftovers, and we can see here, handle leftovers. So if we now search for handle leftovers by getting it on our clipboard and using find, we can see the handle leftovers routine. We don't need to worry about this bit at the top for now. All we need to do is think about the condition for leftovers. So what we can do is we can copy all of that. We're going to go to the bottom of the file as well to give ourselves some space. We'll paste it in, and we need to now rename this new handle leftovers to handle Aqua Ring. So let's read through this. This is just about whose turn we're doing first. This is the bit we are interested in. This says get user item. We load the user item into A, that's one of our working registries, and then we're loading that into the named objects index. That turns a number into a name. So we get the item name, and then we are going to compare it with held leftovers. And that is what CP held leftovers is doing. We are comparing to the held leftovers. If the held leftovers matches, it will be 0. In this case, it is not 0. So if it is not the held leftovers, NZ means not 0. We will leave here. That's what ret means. Return out of here. We're done with this line of code. So we wouldn't read any further down. So now what we need to do is we need to change this bit here into Aqua Ring. So if we go back to our effects commands, I'll bring it over to this one, we can see that what we need to do is we need to do load a BattleVar substatus 4, we need to call get BattleVar address, we need to check if it's Aqua Ring, and then if it's not, we can do something there. So if we copy those 3 lines and then replace these lines here, now the condition for healing is we load in substatus 4, we check for Aqua Ring, but you see at the moment it's saying return if it's not 0. That doesn't make sense for us. We need to return if it is 0, because if Aqua Ring has been used, that will be 1. And the rest of it is fairly simple. We don't need to change any more of this, apart from at the bottom. We're going to need some more text, battle text, so if we go back into data text battle, we can have a little look for the battle target recovered with item, and instead we are going to, we'll just copy the first 2 lines here. So we will do battle text target recovered with Aqua Ring. Make sure we spell Aqua Ring correctly, and then we will do a cont, and then we will type in Aqua Ring in all caps just to match the formatting with Generation 2. We'll finish it off with a prompt. And now we can copy this and bring it in to here. That is almost all we need to do. We now need to copy the handle Aqua Ring. We will search once again for handle leftovers. And underneath that, we will do call handle Aqua Ring. That is our first move in. So in this particular move, what we have done is we've learned how to set a substatus for a Pokemon. We have learnt how to deal with that substatus in the battle core, and we've learnt how to edit some text in the battle engine as well to say what it wants us to do. Just before we move on to the next one, I want to go back to this battle constants. We have plenty of space at the moment, but if you do run out of space, you can create more substatuses. It's not something I'll cover in this one, but as we get deeper and deeper into the disassembly, we'll be learning how to add even more substatuses. For now, though, we're going to go right back to the beginning, and we are going to add a fresh move in. And for our next one, we're going to go for facade. So we'll go back up to the top of the move constants. We'll add it in. So let's go down to below aqua ring. We'll do const and facade. We'll then give it a name of facade as well. Now we need to give it a description, and let's go up to the top first of all. We'll move FD up here, and let's change FD description to facade description. We can now, of course, get rid of the FC and FD descriptions from here. It doesn't matter if you leave them in, though. It's not taking up too much space. Down to the bottom, and we need to give it a description, and it doubles power if, and then next line, user status. Very, very basic. Once again, check to make sure you're under 17 characters on both of those lines. Give it a save, and now we can give it a move effect. So move facade. It's going to be effect facade. I believe it is 70 power normal type move with 100% accuracy. I think it's got 20 pp, and again, it's got no secondary effect. For the animation this time, let us use body slam. Nice and simple normal type move, and we can add the effect for facade. So const effect facade. We go to the effects pointers, we do DW and facade, and now we can do the effect. The effect for this one, it's practically the same as a normal hit. We just need to double the damage if we have a status. So we'll copy all of this, go down to the bottom, we'll do facade on a colon, we'll tab ourselves in, and then we need to figure out where in this list we're going to double the damage. We need to have done the damage calculation by that point already, and it really is up to you whether you want to put it before or after stab. I'm going to put it after stab. I'm going to do facade here in lowercase. We'll then give it a battle command, so this is going to be command facade. We will give it a label of B1, and now we are on to effect command pointers again. So it's DW, battle command, and then facade. Try and keep consistency, unlike me there. Give it a capital C for battle command, get it on your clipboard, and now we'll go back to the effect commands, and under aqua ring, we will start writing our code for facade. And now we need to get to work figuring out what the hell facade does. I kind of gave the game away earlier a little bit by saying that we need to double damage, but we need to work out the condition for doubling the damage. And this is a fairly simple process, but the sticking point here is we need to figure out whose turn it is, because it's no good in checking the player's statuses if it's the enemy's turn. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to load into one of our registries, the HL, the high-low registry, W Battlemon status. This is for your Pokemon status. So Battlemon status, make sure that the capitalization is consistent with everything else in the file, otherwise it won't know what it is. Everything in this is case sensitive. And now what we need to do is we need to LDH a H battle turn. This is from a different place from W Battlemon status. This is in the RAM that begins with H. And if you do something in the RAM that begins with H, you've got to start with LDH. So what we've done at the moment is we've loaded into one of our bits of RAM the Battlemon status. In the other bit, the working bit, we have loaded in the battle turn. If we do ANDA, that will then check to see if the value in this is 0. So what we can do is we can do JRZ got user. And now what that says is if the value in H battle turn is 0, we will jump row if it is 0 to got user. So if we now go down a little bit and untab, we will go and make a got user parts there. That means that if it isn't 0, we will continue reading down the code. We will not skip the bit in between. And all we're going to do here is LDHL W enemy mon status. So that is, if it's battle turn 0, we go for the user. If it's battle turn 1 or above, we're going to load in the enemy mon status. Now, we don't need to worry about turn order. It doesn't matter if the player goes first or the enemy goes first. It's always going to have the same value in H battle turn. The player is 0, the enemy is 1. So now that we've got the user, we can start doing our conditional checks. So for that, it's in the Battlemon or Enemy-mon status, and we're going back to checking bits like we were in the previous one. So if we have a little luck, we loaded BattleVar substatus 4 into A, and then we called this routine that gets the BattleVar address. Now, when you get the BattleVar address, it loads it into a different place. So it doesn't load it into A, it loads it into high-low, which is why we are checking for the bit in the high-low registry that would match substatus Aquaring. So we can work with something similar for Facade. So we know that our Battlemon status is in the high-low registry. So what we can do is bit, and we'll start off with PAR. That means paralysis. We'll do a comma, and then in the square brackets, we will do high-low. If you're checking in the high-low registry, it always has to go in square brackets. So what that's doing is it's checking the bit in our high-low registry, our HL. So that'll be either the Battlemon status or the Enemy-mon status. We're checking to see if the paralysis bit is set. So if we do JRNZ, so jump row not 0, we can go to something called double damage. It's already a thing in Generation 2 because of things like Stomp and Minimalize, the double earthquake damage if you're underground, so we don't need to worry about manually doubling the damage ourselves. But that won't work at the moment. JR is only for things locally on this list. So it's 128 lines back, 128 lines forward. This double damage is not going to be within 128. So we're going to change JR to JP. It uses slightly more memory, but it's not really going to affect anything. So we will jump to double damage. That means that if we're paralysed, we're going to be doing double damage. Of course, it doesn't just double damage if we're paralysed. We need to check for poison next. So again, it's going to be bit, and poison is PSN. It's the PlayStation Network. In high-low, JPNZ, double damage. And now we have a choice to make. Because in Generations 3 and 4, Facade factors in the halving of your physical attack when you're burnt. But in Generation 5 onwards, it doesn't. So if we're going for the Generation 3 move effect, all we would do is we'd do exactly the same as before. Bit and then BRN for burn in the high-low, JPNZ, comma, double damage, and then we would end this with RET. We'd return out of Battle Command Facade. So when we finish a battle command like this, we need to leave the routine, otherwise it's going to keep on scrolling downwards. Say if we hadn't jumped to somewhere in the Aquaring effect and instead we'd called something, for instance call animate move, and that was the last bit, we would then need to put a ret on the bottom of there, but we're jumping to somewhere else, so that doesn't matter for those. But for this, we have a finite end to our battle command, so that means we need to finish it off with a ret. And all that means is if we aren't burnt, poisoned or paralysed, then we just leave the routine and we have done absolutely nothing there. However, if we're doing the Generation 5 and onwards Facade, it's slightly different when we're burning. Instead, what we're going to do is we're going to do a ret Z. So if we're not burnt after we've checked for poison and paralysis, we will leave the routine. But if we are burnt, we'll do something else. And what we're going to do is call double damage first. So that means we'll run through the double damage routine, but we'll return here once it's done. So instead of jumping to it, we're just saying read through it and come back when you're done. And then we're going to jump to double damage. So we are doubling the damage twice. Once to negate the burn factor, and then once to actually double the damage. And with that, Facade is done. So we will save our effect commands, we'll go all the way back to the start again, and we will do one more move. And this one is going to be one of my favourite moves I've ever backported. It's going to be Echoed Voice. So we'll start off with a const Echoed Voice, and let's get some stuff in for it. So what does Echoed Voice do? It adds its base power to itself every time you use it consecutively, up to a maximum of 200 base power. It starts at 40, so that means you can use it 5 turns in a row, and then it will cap out and not increase its power anymore from there. So the bits we'll need to do are figure out how to create a counter for Echoed Voice that only goes up when we use Echoed Voice, and then resets itself if we use any other move. We're going to need to find a way to double our damage, or should I say add our damage to itself if we are using Echoed Voice, and then we'll need to find a way to make it cap out at 200. The first thing though is getting the move in, so we'll do const Echoed Voice, we'll give it a name and it's going to be Echoed Voice. Into descriptions, we'll do the bottom description first this time, Echoed Voice description. And we will do db powers up if, and then we can probably fit the word used in there as well. Let's see, 17 characters, perfect, used consecutively, because consecutively is a very long word. For data moves, what we will do is we'll copy facade, we will then change that to Echoed Voice. We're going to change effect facade to effect Echoed Voice. And we know it's a 40 base power move, it's a normal move, 100% accurate, and I do believe it has 10 PP as well. 15 PP, not 10 for that. For animations for this one, don't really have anything, so I'm just going to go for sing. And now we can create our effect constant. We'll go into effect pointers, DW, Echoed Voice. Into effects, we can probably actually copy everything we've done for facade, but we will just change that to Echoed Voice there in the camel case. We'll change facade here to Echoed Voice in lowercase, because we're doing exactly the same, we're varying the damage, and we will create a new battle command. So that's going to be command Echoed Voice, it's going to be number B2, and now we can go back into effects commands and start thinking about creating it. Of course, we're going to need to add the pointer first. Battle command, Echoed Voice. Give that a copy. And now we can go into effect commands, put it at the bottom, and we can think about what we need to do. Now, this is going to be a mix of a couple of moves that are already in Generation 2. Rage adds its damage to itself every time the rage counter increases, and Fury Cutter has that counter to see if you use the move on consecutive turns. We can't just reskin Fury Cutter though, because Fury Cutter doubles its power as opposed to adding its power for itself. So Fury Cutter would go 40, 80, 160, whereas we want to go 40, 80, 120, 160. So that does complicate things ever so slightly. So for the sake of simplicity, and to make it much more readable for us, we're going to split Echoed Voice into 2 different battle commands. We will start off with the counter, and then we will figure out the damage later. So let's go back to battle commands first of all, and instead of Echoed Voice on its own, we will add counter there. Still going to be number B2, and below it we are going to do command Echoed Voice and then damage. So we've got Echoed Voice counter and Echoed Voice damage. If we go back to effects, we will go to Echoed Voice in Echoed Voice. We'll do counter and then we will do damage. And then we will go on to battle commands, change that to Echoed Voice counter, and then we'll duplicate that and change it to damage. Finally, in effects commands after voice, we will start off with counter. Right, so we need to create some slots to tell the game to store whether we have been using Echoed Voice or not. That means we're going to have to open up the RAM. So let's get a search everything going, and we are looking for RAM, wram.asm. This is where all the bits and bobs are stored for your current save files. So we've got a load of stuff in here. It is one of the most intimidating files. What we need to do is find some spots in RAM that are going to be spare that we can piggyback off and use for our own purposes. And now you could search through with a fine-tooth comb. What I would suggest doing is looking for the fight counts. So just search for fight count, and there we can see the fight counts. We've got this, DS100. That is 100 slots in RAM that are going unused. It is there for our taking. So we will use 2 of those to create our echoed voice counters. We'll do W in lowercase, player echoed voice counter. Now this is going to be 1 slot in RAM. So we're going to do a double colon with DB. We'll duplicate that and change the next one to enemy echoed voice counter. Now we've used 2 of those 100 slots. We'll take 2 off there. So that now becomes DS98. Also going to comment this and say extra player added stuff here. So we've got a good place to refer to if we ever want to add more to this. We'll save that and we'll go back to effect commands. And now the first thing we need to do in effect commands is figure out whose turn it is. It's either going to be the player or the enemies, but unlike what we did with Facade, we're not going to preload something in. That's just to make things a little bit simpler because we're going to be having to store a value after we have checked a value. So we'll start off with LDH A and comma, then it's H battle turn, and then we'll do AND A, JRZ, player echoed voice counter. We'll copy that there, we'll move that to down below, and we'll handle the enemies first. So in WRAM we did create that new echoed voice counter. We'll copy it on the clipboard, save our fingers from typing it. So we're going to load this into A. So we're loading the enemy echoed voice counter into A, and we're going to compare it with 5. So CP is compare, not confer, and then 5. And what we will do is, if we are 5, we will return. So that's ret Z. That isn't saying we will return if the echoed voice counter is 0. It's saying we will return if the echoed voice counter is 5, i.e. we have hit our limit. If not, we will increment A, so INCA, add 1 to its value, and then we'll store that new value back into W enemy echoed voice counter. We've still got that on the clipboard. So we are loading A into echoed voice counter. When we're loading things in RAM, it goes from the thing on the right into the thing on the left. So we start off by loading the echoed voice counter into our A slot. We are incrementing A, and then we're loading A back into the echoed voice counter. That's all we need to do here, so we can do ret. And now we can copy these and just change the reference to enemy into a reference for player. So we're player echoed voice counter. We'll do exactly the same here. And now we can save. That's all we need to do for the counter to begin with. But now we're going to need to reset it if either we swap into a new Pokemon or we don't use echoed voice. So for that, we're going to go back into engine battlecore.asm. We're going to have a little look for Fury Cutter, because we know that Fury Cutter resets its counter when we don't use it. And this is what we're looking for here. Load into A the move struct plus the move effect. Compare for Fury Cutter. If it is Fury Cutter, we skip the reset. And if it isn't, we XOR A, which is loading 0 into A, and then we load that into the Fury Cutter count. So what we can do is we can copy these few lines here, and we will change the references to Fury Cutter to references to echoed voice. So it's going to be effect echoed voice. We'll change Fury Cutter to echoed voice. Copy that on the clipboard and paste it down there. And we will change player Fury Cutter counter into echoed voice counter. Got to be very careful to keep the same capitalization. And now we will do the same for the enemy as well. So if we do a little search, we will do for W enemy Fury, because there's not going to be anything else like that. We're going to ignore this one for now. We'll come back to that in just a second. Instead, we'll search twice and we find something very similar to what we've seen. Let's copy this bit. We'll change all references to Fury Cutter once again to references to echoed voice. So echoed voice, copy that there, change Fury Cutter there to there, and now we change Fury Cutter count to echoed voice counter. Make sure once again to keep the same capitalization. We'll give that a save. We'll search once again for the Fury Cutter this time, and now we can see we have a reset vase for substatus Rage. We need to reset that as well, so that's the echoed voice counter. And there's going to be a few more places where we need to reset as well. So we're going to keep searching for the Fury Cutter count. This one is cleaning up the battle ram at the very end, so just under the X or A, we'll load in our player echoed voice counter and our enemy echoed voice counter into here as well, so it's reset to 0 at the end of a battle. And we still need to keep on searching. There are going to be quite a few of these. Here's another one that we've not done, so we will change this to echoed voice counter, and now we need to do the same for the player as well. So we've got one here for the reset Rage. We will do echoed voice counter here. We'll do another quick search. We've got that one that we've already done, because of course we're searching for echoed voice counter there. Of course we have it done. Here's the last one. We need to reset the Fury Cutter count when we swap out. So we'll do echoed voice counter, and I can delete that extra line, give it a save, and now we have a counter that will count up to 5 and no more, but will reset when we either use a different move or we swap our Pokemon. And that now means we can start focusing on working on calculating the damage. If we go back to our effects command pointers, we've already got echoed voice damage there. We will copy that in, create a new effects command, and now we have something that does something almost identical to what we're wanting with the rage damage. So if we look for rage damage here, we can see we've got this battle command rage damage. We will copy all of this down to the rets there, so that is the entire routine. We'll go down to the bottom, we'll paste it in, and we will change any references to rage to references to echoed voice instead. So echoed voice counter there. We'll change this to echoed voice counter as well. And now we'll change rage loop to EV loop, just so that we can save a little bit of typing. And that is all we need to do. We're loading the current damage. This thing here loops through the damage and adds itself to itself, but it has protection to do the maximum number of damage. That's what that double F is. It's saying if we hit the top, just load the max damage in. We can't do any more, so we might as well just stop there. And with that, we have added 3 new moves. Voice, as its level 1 moves. Remember to revert this afterwards, by the way. And now I think I'm also going to go over to Geodude, because I want to test echoed voice on Geodude, but I also want to test Facade. So if we change its level 1 move to Stun Spore, I think that's the most accurate paralysis move. No, Thunder Wave is, isn't it? Let's be sensible about that. We don't have a guaranteed burning move, so instead we'll use Flame Wheel, because our Totodile is going to resist. Do remember to change those back as well. We'll get Sigwin out, we'll run a make, and then we will test out our 3 new moves. And did you spot the deliberate error that I left in? We forgot to rebalance our descriptions table. We didn't put echoed voice description at the tippy top. So let's go down to FE description and let us change that to echoed voice description. Well done if you did spot it. And let's now rerun that make, and we will finally get to testing our new moves. You've got to keep all of these tables in balance. We can get rid of move FE description there as well. It doesn't really matter. Like I said, all that matters is having the moves in balance. So we've got to have the number of attacks above this match our number of move constants. Did you spot the other deliberate mistake? We didn't change enemy echoed voice counter to player echoed voice counter when we were doing this counter. So let's save that now that we've got it all correct, and we can get ourselves testing in Pokémon Crystal to see if these moves work. So let's get our testing Totodile. We'll make our way over to Routes 46, and then we'll call this tutorial a success. I'm going to leave deliberate mistakes in as I'm doing the coding. I'll always fix them at the end of the video. There were a couple of typos in there as well, but that's the nature of doing coding. You're going to get mistakes in it. There's no sense in doing a tutorial where everything is absolutely perfect, because that's not how it's going to be. So let's test out Aqua Ring first of all. We surround ourselves with Water Veil. We restore HP when we have taken damage, and it fails if we try and use it twice. Aqua Ring is a success. That is perfect. Let's now move on and get ourselves a Geodude. I'm very happy to have an early Rock type because that means we can test out some of these moves that are going to do quite a lot of damage. I would always recommend testing out on Geodude. It's a very good Pokemon to just take the hits. That is, of course, unless you're testing with a Water or Grass type move. Let's start off with Echoed Voice, see if it does it. Critical hit there doesn't help, so we're going to start all over again. Did a little bit of damage there, we're doing more damage there, and we are doing even more damage there. I can call that one a success, so let's go on to Facade. Did a little bit of damage, let's try and get ourselves statused. We do double the damage there. I do want to check to see how we do when we get burnt. This could take a little while, so I'll meet you when we are eventually burnt. There we go, we've got the burn. We're looking to still see if we're doing the high damage, and we are. Everything is working. I am calling this one a success. So if you have learned something, please do make sure to leave a like. Subscribe for more Pokemon Crystal disassembly tutorials. Any feedback, leave it in the comments down below. Until next time, I'll say thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all very, very soon.